I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Hi everybody, Ron here from The Truth About Addiction. Welcome to another episode, and hope everyone's having a bloody good day, because I know I am. Today we have a guest I know a little bit about, and I'm going to learn a bit more as you people do today. Welcome to The Truth About Addiction, Shane. And so what's the Shane Cuthbert story, please, buddy?
Mate, it's a tough one. I think everyone's got a story, and it's hard to dwindle it down, into 10 minutes or half an hour or whatever it is. So I really struggle with that. But mate, I've got a little bit of lived experience in a few different places. Experience with drug use, addictions. I've been to prison. Mate, I've been around playing drums in bands, when I was young. Done a lot of stuff. Changed my life, and now focus on helping people. Just enrolled in a double law and psychology degree at the moment. I'm just about to finish the law, just so I can help people more. So yeah, look, in a nutshell, I guess I was born in Western Sydney, grew up. My parents were never married, so they weren't divorced. But my parents split up when I was really young. I was probably 3 or 4-ish. Now I'm the eldest of 8 kids. Both parents have remarried. Yeah, mate, grew up mostly in Blacktown, so in between Parramatta and Penrith.
I know it well.
Mate, Mount Druitt, Marion. We actually lived in Marion, so Quakers Hill, all those areas, all around Blacktown. I went to Blacktown Boys High School. The school of hard knocks, I called it. I mean, we were all boys. I don't know what it's like now, but going back, geez, it'd have to be 15 years or more since I was in high school. And I remember the first day there. I went in year 8, trying to fit in, and really there was a kid from my football team. I played football as well, and Brett Stacey, and he was giving me a bit of a grief. And on my first day there, I ended up, in a punch on with him. But what happens is the whole school, like all the other kids would gather around, and the teachers would be trying to get in there and break it up, and all the kids would be holding the teachers back. And so I'm there, and I still got a scar on my hand, actually, from one of his teeth, poor fella. But anyway, I thought I was going well, and then this other bloke, a big Islander fella with an acoustic guitar, come over and hit me in the back of the head and knocked me out. So that was my first day at school, mate. I thought, this is pretty tough. And a lot of Islanders back then. I don't know if it's different now, but lots of Samoans, Tongans, big boys, like big boys, lot bigger than me. So I went in year 8, and there was this guy that sort of ran the school there. His name was Palmer Ben, huge guy. He's in year 12. The week before I started there, he was picking on some kid at school. So the kid's dad come and confronted him outside school after school, and he put this guy's dad through the windscreen of a car, and the school couldn't expel him because they said, well, it didn't happen on school grounds, happened outside, but he got arrested, and he was 17, so they let it go. But man, this guy was huge, and so everyone was sort of scared of him. And I think I went to school with a bit of an attitude. I grew up in Blacktown and Marion, and I'm not a fighter, and I'm not a tough guy, but I don't back down. I'll stand my ground. And I remember there was a couple of friends there that were sort of trying to take me under their wing, saying, look, just be careful with these Islander guys, you know what I mean? Like, they'll knock you around. And I said, I'm not scared of them. And then somebody smart ass in the group just thought, I'll broadcast that. This Shane Cuthbert, this new kid, he's going around saying, he's not scared of all these big fellas. And then one day I'm out it was sort of like a prison yard, but this was the schoolyard.
Yeah.
And big guys come up, and they said, oh, you said you're not scared of us, and you're not scared of Palmer Ben. I said, mate, I've got nothing to be scared of. I don't know the guy. I'm not scared of him. They stood around me and they said, oh, I'm Palmer Ben. And I said, okay, great, nice to meet you. Then the next one said, I'm Palmer Ben. And the next one went around. It was sort of like a movie. And then they said, we're all Palmer Ben. And I was like, all right, no worries. And then, they said, all right, mate, if you're not scared, how about you pick up a ball at lunchtime? This is in a concrete quad, mind you, so it wasn't even on the grass. And you're going to run as hard as you can at this Palmer Ben fellow. And so I did, mate, and he smacked me. I ran straight into his shoulder and I got knocked back, mate, a couple of meters back. I reckon I was winded, and everyone's just laughing. But they sort of come and had a bit of respect for me after that because they thought, you know what, he's this little white kid.
Yeah.
Ran as hard as he could, and all my friends thought I was, an idiot.
Yeah.
But that was my introduction to school and that area too. And that's just how it was. Growing up there, you sort of had to be tough, and not tough as in you had to fight everybody, but, you just had to be, I guess you had to stand up for yourself and not be scared, and I actually think now, I think about how, we used to walk around at night, egging houses in the middle of Mount Druitt and Shelby and stuff like that. And I think, I live in Cairns now, but I come down to visit family all the time, and I go down there and I drive around and I think, I don't want to get out of the car, and then I think about all the stuff I used to get up to back in the day, and just kids having fun, I guess. But I guess it was a different kind of fun for us, you know what I mean? We had nothing to do, so we're out on the streets, and we'd be walking around all night, be 4 a.m. and would be at the train station, and nothing bad really ever happened to us, which is, it's crazy when you think about it, because you think about these areas now, you think, oh, they're so dangerous and there's lots of crime and stuff. But I think when you're a kid and you're from there, you sort of knew everybody as well. So you knew you sort of didn't have a problem, or if you didn't know someone, you knew, your mate knew them or something, or they're related in some way. And, usually if there was issues, they'd be sorted out, at school or something like that. So, mate, that's where I grew up. I was actually really lucky. I started playing drums when I was 7. So I've been playing drums for a long time now, and I was pretty good. So, when I was about 14, year 8, year 9, we were doing all the, Battle of the Band comps and that sort of stuff at school. And we did youth rock. This was, this would have been 2006, sorry, or 2005, sorry. Yeah, 2005, played at the Bankstown Entertainment Centre there. And, mate, just started really pursuing that, wanting to be a rock star and playing bands and travel the world and that sort of thing. So that was my dream. That kept me out of trouble. We were in garages playing in bands when we were young. So I think our parents are probably really grateful for that, because, although we got up to a little bit of mischief, we didn't hurt anyone. And, for the most part, we stayed out of trouble because we were trying to get this music thing happening. And I remember being 14 years old, me and my best friend, we went to the Marion Hall. It's just there near the Marion train station, and it's owned by the council. And we said, look, we want to put on a show. And we're talking to this council guy there, and he said, oh yeah, look, that's fine. You got to pay the deposit and the bond, and it's about $400, which probably was a lot back then for us, because I was working at KFC. I don't think my mate was working at all. He probably borrowed it from his mum. And this council fellow said, oh, look, you're going to have to, get a parent or guardian that's 18 to sign this. And I forged my mum's signature. I said, oh, yeah, no worries. Yeah. Give him the $400 in the envelope, and they gave us the keys. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And it was really cool looking back now, because I think about, how entrepreneurial that was for a young kid, but, we did that. We won a free PA hire or something at some Battle of the Bands thing. And so we had a free PA, and we asked these other bands to come, and we charged $10 at the door. One of our mates' dads he was in the army, so he sort of ran security for us. And, it's all 15, 16-year-old kids. And, mate, we made about $1,500, which back then was like, we thought, geez, we've made it,
Yeah.
We were terrible, mate. We couldn't get, shows anywhere because we were so hopeless. I mean, you wouldn't want to listen to it now. I'll tell you that. But, mate, we had the dreams, and one of the bands that was meant to play that night, actually, we become friends with them. They were on tour, and eventually I started hanging out with them a lot. Whenever they were in Sydney, I'd go to their shows, so I knew all of their stuff, become friends with the singer. And a couple of months in, he goes, oh, he gives me a call and he says, mate, you know all of our stuff, our drummers left. We've got a tour booked around Australia, a whole Australian tour. We need someone to come play drums. So I'm 15 and I said, yeah. And then, next thing I know, I'm on a plane. I'm going to Perth. I hadn't been on a plane before. Yeah, going on tour and doing that rock star thing. And I thought that was great. So that kept me out of trouble, I think, in my younger years, because, a lot of my friends were getting in trouble, getting arrested. Here I was traveling around. We did a lot of stuff on tour, and we got away with a lot of stuff. I mean, not just, drug use and drinking and stuff like that, but, we used to break a lot of stuff. We used to trash a lot of stuff. I don't know. I guess it's that rock star sort of mentality thing where you get away with it. You go to a new city the next day. But I can't believe I didn't get arrested on tour ever, because I was pretty out of control. But, I did that for probably until I was 19, 20, early 20s, I'd say. And then I just wasn't going anywhere. I was in all these cool bands that had all this, really nice stuff lined up. We're going to tour the world and do an album and, be huge successes and things like that. And for whatever reason, it would just fall apart, and that's tough to deal with, because you get depressed anyway when you're coming off tour, because you're going from this high, you're with your friends every day. You're going up to any girl you want in the club, if you're lucky, they're taking you back to their place because you didn't have anywhere to go, or you'd be on the back of the van with 7 other dudes in it. But, it was just a good life. But you come back and you're really depressed, because you think, oh, I'm going back to this normal life. I'm going back to, at the time for me, I'm going back to working at KFC, when I'm 15, 16. So that was really hard to deal with. But then when it all sort of, I guess you say the curtains closed, just wasn't going anywhere. And I had friends they were driving, they had cars, they had houses, they had misses, they had all that stuff happening. And here I was, and I thought, well, I've been left behind. I've got nothing. I've saved no money. Yeah, lived this, really cool life. It was really cool while it lasted. But mate, I didn't have any dollars to my name or anything like that. So I started getting really, really depressed, smoking weed, all the time, just really doing anything that I could get my hands on, really. And funny enough, I tell people, and they don't really know what I'm talking about, but I got into the cough syrup.
Yep.
Of all things, mate, the Robitussin dry cough fort, and I just I loved it. And it's crazy, because when I was a kid, I had this bad accident in a playground where another kid picked me up. I was about 7 or 8, and I compound fractured my arm, so the bone come out. I had to have operations, and I was in Westmead Children's Hospital for a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the morphine there, and they were just pumping me with morphine. And mate, I remember when they were trying to take me off it, and I was just coming down. But I was coming down as a kid, so I didn't understand I was coming down. I didn't understand why I felt so sick. Mate, I was either just awake, and if I was awake, I didn't want to be awake because I was vomiting. I was sort of in pain, like cramping. I just wanted to go back to sleep. And, I remember that was because of the morphine, coming down off the morphine. And, I had doctors that were like, oh, look, it's, we got to take it out of his arm. Because obviously, when you go to hospital, you get a catheter and not a catheter, sorry, what do they call it?
The thing that
they put in. And at one point they were trying to find a new place to put it, and they tried my feet and they tried my toes, and couldn't get it in there. And I was just a little kid, and I was like, oh, here I am, they're trying to poke needles in my toes, and it wasn't fun. I hated that. And so I was always really anti-drugs. And it's funny to say, because here I was, fast forward, in my life where I'm dealing with depression and some stuff from my childhood. I'm a young sort of early 20s guy, and mate, I'm going around off my head on cough medicine
Yeah.
every day, thinking, well, it was legal. I bought it over the counter, so it's not a drug.
Yeah.
But, now looking back, it was a drug. It's got DMT in it, and I was, didn't really hallucinate, but, it sort of made everything feel awesome is what I felt. Like I could have fell over and hurt my knee, but it would have felt good. And I just love that feeling, mate. I just love feeling like, everything's going to be good. And, I was in a bad way because you drink half a bottle of this stuff and you flying for 12 hours. And I'd go to skate parks with my mates, and, there'd be little kids there that got their new scooter for Christmas and things like that. They're, 5 and 6 years old. Here I am, this tattooed 20-year-old bloke that's going down the skate park, geeing all the kids up saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to put a helmet on. Why don't you do a trick on my head? And, and then the kids loved it. And then, there'd be parents that had come down every now and then, and they'd be like, oh, mate, took their kids back from the skate park and go, you can't go down there unsupervised anymore because there's these bloody idiots that are, we'd be smashing bottles and just doing stuff like that. And you know what? Stuff I regret too now because I don't have kids yet, but I think, I think back about those times and I think, like those poor kids. And there was a lot of them too, like neighborhood kids, street kids that, they thought we were cool because we could do tricks and stuff. And mate, I just remember being just so off my head there, and I think, yeah, sort of what a waste of life that was. What a waste of time in my life that was. I wasn't doing anything productive. I wasn't working. I was basically just on Centrelink, renting a room somewhere. I'd crouch surf, stay at mates' places, that sort of thing. Didn't have a car, didn't have a driver's license. I was really, really a loser, when I think back to that. And I think it was just because I didn't handle. No one was there for me at that time to sort of pull me aside and say, mate, you're going through some stuff. Maybe you're a bit depressed. We didn't even know what depression was back then.
Yeah.
And it's not too long ago, but I think just because we were young people, we didn't talk about it. And now I've got mates that, are in their early 20s and they're really like, advocate for, are you okay day? And hey, mate, how are you? And let's talk about this depression stuff. And I think, we never had none of that, when I was growing up. We didn't know what that was. So, and there was no one. I mean, I wasn't getting in a lot of trouble, so I wasn't even really in the court system. I was a little bit, but I wasn't, I hadn't gone to prison or anything yet. So really, there was no responsible person in the community that was there to pull me aside and say, hey, mate, you need some help, or have you thought about this or what's going on, and all of my friends too at the time, like, I mean, they loved hanging out with me. They just thought, I was a bit of a joke, I was a bit of a clown. I was always up for a dare. So I sort of got used a little bit, to be that, someone that you'd bring along. I had friends that stopped talking to me too. I had friends that were like, hey, look, I've got a missus and I'm settling down now and you're too out of control. So that hurt. But then you got friends that, they'd love to invite you to places because they'd want to see you do something silly or something stupid. But at the end of the day, I was the entertainment for people, and it was my life that I was, ruining basically. I went to court in a clown costume, made bloody worldwide news when I did that, and I thought it was great. I was off my head. I got called up for jury duty at Penrith local court, right? And I must have been, 19, 20, something like that. And I just, instead of thinking, hey, this is a really serious thing, like maybe someone's in there on a murder charge or something like that, and, I need to take this really, really seriously, I got off my head on Robitussin and I went in there, I reported for jury duty. And I thought, you know what? If everyone says this bloke's guilty, I'm going to say, no, he's not. If everyone said he's not guilty, I'm going to say he's guilty. And that was my frame of mind at that time. I was just like, look, anti-system, anti-establishment. I'm just going to go in there. Now, as you can imagine, they didn't let me be. They didn't let me be a juror.
Yeah.
They must have come in. They must have saw my pupils and thought, "Geez, this guy's off his head, or he's high, or something." And they said, "Look, we don't need you today." And I'm thankful that they did, because I think back and I think, geez, that was someone's life, that day that could have been adversely affected because I didn't take life seriously. Mate, then fast forward a few years, when I was 25, I started dating Berenger Rose. So she was in Playboy, Zoo magazine covers, things like that. Pretty well-known model, and we got married, within 6 months. It might have been 4 or 5 months. So we weren't together long, and that was a very, very crazy time, because there was a lot of drug use, a lot of drinking, a lot of alcohol. I was just out of control. I ended up going to jail then while I was with her for the first time in New South Wales for 2 months. And I was released, and then we moved to Queensland together. And I did 6 months then. I had 11 charges. Drink driving. I had 4 drink drivings. And that's another thing that just shows that I was just out of control. Like I shouldn't have been on the road.
Yeah.
I tell people this, all the time too, is I got caught drink driving 4 times. I drink drove
Many times.
mate, a lot more than that, and look, I did never hurt anybody or have an accident or anything like that. But I actually remember I was, one of the time, I don't know if it was the first time but one of the times I got done, I'm driving up, on the way to Silverdale. So I can't remember that road. It's like Northern Road. And I'd just picked up my dad from the pub. Now my dad was a bad drink driver, and he spent time in custody for drink driving. So I don't know how many times he got caught. We've never really talked about it, but I thought, for you to go to jail for it, you must have been done a lot. And he lost his license for 10 years. So it was pretty serious. But I picked him up from the pub because he was trying to do the right thing and didn't want to drive home pissed. So he's his son that's come to pick him up. And I was half pissed, and then I'd stayed for a beer and another one, and then I'm pissed driving, my dad home, and we're going up this road and we're going up this hill. And I remember, so I'm a little bit sloshed, a little bit drunk, and it's a pretty dangerous road, because you're going up there to Silverdale, Warragamba. It's a bit bendy. You're going up a hill, and there's a car behind us, but I'm trying to change the CD or something while I'm driving, while I'm a bit drunk, while I think I was trying to text, my girlfriend at the time on the phone as well. And this bloke lights us up, from behind, and it's a detective. He just happened to be the head of the Asian crime gang at the time. And he goes, "You fucking idiots, what the hell are you doing?" He got us out of the car. He goes, "Mate, you're all over the road." And I'm like, "Nah, mate, it's all good. Like, nah, don't worry, bro. Just let us go." I'm like, "I live up here. I'm just dropping my dad home or something." And he's like, "No way. Look at you." And then he looks at my dad, and then he's like, "You should know better. Like, what? This is your son. He's bloody can't even, talk straight or walk straight, and you're letting him drive you home after he's picked you up from the pub." And, and he sat there and waited for, the normal sort of uniform cops to come and get me. And then, I got done, lost my license for 9 months. So I was there. The odd thing is that I don't even remember talking to my dad much about that either. I really think he should have. He probably felt like he wasn't in that position because he'd done it as well. Maybe he thought he wasn't the person to pull me aside and go, "You need to be responsible and don't do this, or you're going to go down the same path I went down."
Yeah.
He wasn't exactly happy to see me go down that path either, but, he didn't really say much. And I just think back to it now, and I think, I don't know, maybe there was a couple of times in my life I think I maybe could have just used someone
Yeah.
there,
100%.
to say, "Mate, what are you doing? Don't do this. And it probably should have been him, in all honesty. He probably should have said, mate, I've been there, done that. And then he must have got a taxi home or something, because they took me to the watch house there. I can't remember. I think they took me back to St Mary's police station, actually. And then, his wife and him, they'd come to pick me up afterwards and drive me home and get my car and stuff. But I don't remember talking about it much. But here I am now in Queensland. I remember staying up all night because I was on bail in Queensland. I was at Mackay. I was on bail, and I had to report between 7 and 7 every day. It's part of my bail reporting conditions. And I'd been up all night drinking, and it's probably about 6 a.m. And I'm thinking, I sort of want to have a shower and go to bed now. And I thought, but I'm going to have to report. And I thought, look, once I go to bed, I'm going to be sleeping for 8 hours or longer. I'm going to be hungover. So I thought, you know what? I'll get in the car and I'll drive to the police station now. And I'd been drinking probably all day the day before and all night. So, mate, I would have been way over. Here I am. I've driven to the Mackay police station, and I got there at 6:30. I parked outside. I've gone inside. The cops come out. He said, mate, look, what are you here for? I said, look, I've got a report. He goes, oh, you're not meant to report till 7. And I said, oh, mate, okay. I mean, I guess I got to wait here. But I was like, it's a bit annoying. He goes, look, it's 6:30, but look, I'll just fudge it. So basically, he signs my name in the book. I sign my name. He puts 7 o'clock on there, 7 a.m. So he's got that on there. And then I get back in the car and I start driving home. And I get home and there's coppers in the driveway. And so I'm just thinking, oh, fuck. I don't know what they're there for. Noise complaint, something. I don't know. I've seen them and I've gone, oh, fuck. I can't let them see me pull in the driveway, smashed. They see me anyway. They see me pulling up and I've gone, oh, shit. And they're looking at me and they're pointing at me. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And then, I don't know, split second reaction, I've gone, well, I'll reverse away. So I hit the car into reverse and I start reversing back down the street. So they get in the car. So now they're going to chase me like, oh, this guy's taken off. This is a police chase sort of thing. And look, I'm doing 50 Ks now. I'm not going very fast in reverse, but there's another street behind our house that was a cul-de-sac, and it was an industrial area. And I've driven down there, and they knew it was a cul-de-sac. So they thought, oh, look, he's got nowhere to go, right? He's down in a cul-de-sac. So I've locked the car, took the keys out, got out of the car. They're at the end of the street thinking, oh, look, we'll just wait here. If he tries to drive out, we've got the road blocked.
Yeah.
I got out. I jumped over my back fence because, as I said, my house backed onto that. I jumped over the fence, had a shower, went and put myself to bed. An hour or two later, knock on the door. There's a dog squad. There's cops everywhere. Some cops standing over me in bed. Mate, you've been driving that car. And I was denying the whole thing. I said, nah, mate. They ended up arresting me. So another drink driving, they got me for trespassing then because I jumped, through this industrial area to get to my house. Whole bunch of stuff, whole bunch of charges, but really I was out of control. Like nothing really serious on their own. I probably shouldn't have gone to prison for any of it really. But I did. So I got refused bail and I was on remand there and I went to Rockhampton prison. As I got before that. So I had those 11 charges and then I must have got bail for those. Because then must have been a couple of weeks later, I was still out of control, had a few charges sitting there, was drinking a lot all day, every day, was fighting with the wife. Life wasn't going so well because I went into a school this time and I hung myself in a tree and the branch broke. So I broke my leg and I got arrested there. And then I got refused bail. So I went to court. I was on crutches. I was pretty suicidal. in prison. I thought, my relationship's over.
Yeah.
Didn't want to live anymore. I had no family or friends up there. I was pretty isolated. I'd left everyone behind in Sydney. And then I'd gone to Rockhampton prison, and I'd walked in there, and they said, mate, you're going straight on protection because you're all over the news. And I thought, what? They said, yeah, mate, Current Affairs done a big story on you. You're Australia's most evil husband. And I was like, wait, what? And I didn't know what was going on. And then the bloke stuck me in the shower. Here I'd come in suicidal, so I was in a dress.
Mm.
Police dropped me off, and he's gone. First thing he's done is give me a razor blade and send me to the shower and goes, oh, look, mate, take care of yourself. And then I sat in there and I was like, really thinking about it. But then I was also thinking, well, what's going on? Because I didn't have a TV. I didn't know what was going on. So they sent some psychs in to come see me, grabbed the razor blades off me, took me into a thing, and they said, yeah, look, you're on TV and you're Australia's most evil husband. And I thought, wow, I was already super depressed, already trying to kill myself. So, they'd get me to sign something. I'd stab myself in the neck with a pen, cut my wrist with a juice cup container, and you're doing all this sort of crazy stuff trying to end my life. And, ended up in padded cell there in Rockhampton. And the guards were coming in like, mate, look, we can't wait to get you down in the blocks. We all got bets on how long you're going to last. And eventually I did. I got in to the prison. I lasted 4 days. Guards told me to go. I had some clothes to go get from the laundry. So I'm on crutches, gone over the laundry. There was only one guy standing there, and he was looking at me, and I said, oh, am I meant to be in the laundry? And he was just looking at me, and he just had this blank expression, and he said nothing to me at all. And I just thought it was really awkward. I thought, oh, obviously no one wants me in the laundry. And I've gone to turn around, and 4 guys have come in and basically got me on the ground and jumping all over me. And then I was put in a wheelchair after that, and spent a lot of time in hospital and solitary confinement. I ended up getting transferred to Townsville prison. Similar stuff there. Didn't have a good time. I did the worst of the worst prison, really. I ended up getting celled up with this guy. Put up a post about it yesterday, and I kept trying not to. I kept threatening self-harm or anything that I could to stay out of a cell with this guy, because he was bad news. He'd done rape before. He was in there for manslaughter. Just a real bad guy. And I ended up being in a cell with him, and I thought, look, I'm going to get out soon. I wasn't charged or convicted with anything that was on the news, thank God. So I'm still just in there for the, these 11 charges, drink driving, trespassing, things like that. But he just started assaulting me. So started off, in the yard, giving me a couple of punches, I'd get winded and stuff like that. And I'm still on crutches, mind you. And then every night it just started, he'd be up on the top bunk, I'd be on the bottom bunk, and he'd be watching TV, keeping to himself. And he'd ask me, oh, what do you think about that? He'd be watching NITV or something. And then I'd say, oh yeah, looks good. And didn't matter what I said, he'd turn it to be, something negative, like, oh, yeah. What, you think that's funny, or something. And I'll be like, nah, mate, it's all good. And he'd just get down and start belting me up. And, after a while, he sexually assaulted me. And, I kept my mouth shut and I didn't do anything. And I had 2 weeks to go before I got out. And one of the guards has called me up. It was buy-up day. So, in prison, you get your, once a week, all your chocolates and your snacks and stuff. And really, he wanted all my chocolates and snacks and all that sort of stuff. So, the screws called me up to the fishbowl and said, look, mate, you got to go get an x-ray on your broken leg there. I think your cast is coming off. And I said, oh, okay, no worries. And he calls me over, and we used to call it a bus stop. So in Townsville, you had these sort of, your seats in front of the TV there, and it looked like a bus stop, but there was no bus. There was no bus coming. And he goes, "What's that all about?" I said, "I'm going to the hospital." He said, "No, you're not." And I said, "Yeah, I got a broken leg. I'm going to the hospital, get it checked out." He said, "No, you go back there and tell that screw you're not going, because it's buy-up day. You get the buy-up first and then go." Because that's all he was worried about. So I've gone up there and I've said, "Yeah, mate, look, sorry, I can't go to the hospital, all right." And he goes, "Well, that's stupid. You're going, we tell you what to do. You don't tell us
Yeah.
what to do. I've got a broken leg. You're going to the hospital." I said, "Oh, no, look, I can't." Then he's watching me and I've gone back and he goes, "Oh, what did he say?" I said, "Oh, look, I told him." And he said, "Look, you got to go. There's no, nothing we can do about it." And then he's just stood up and just started laying into me. Then the screws have come in, grabbed me and gone, "Look, mate, you're going to hospital. Don't know what that's all about." But, and I said nothing. I kept my mouth shut the whole way as they took me out to reception. Go up to reception, and then they got to strip search me before I go out to the hospital. And I'm just covered in bruises. I'm cut up and stuff like that. And they just said, "Mate, what's going on?" And I still didn't say anything, but I just remember breaking down, just started crying, like just got really upset. I think I'd done really well. I think I just bottled it all up to that point, and I just thought, look, I'm going to get out soon. I'm going to get out soon. You think, oh, look, I just put up with it for one more day, like one more day. And I was so prepared to just put up with it. And they ended up saying, "Look, mate, well, you got to go to the hospital. We'll sort this out when you get back." But you go there, and I went to hospital. I come back, and then they stuck me in the DU, so solitary confinement, basically, for the last 2 weeks until I got out. That was It was the most traumatic time of my life. Something that's still, even I think now, very difficult for me to process. But here I was, I got out, and here's my now ex-wife, basically there waiting for me when I got out. So we stayed together for another 3 or 4 years after that. And mate, that was just a tough time in my life, and I never thought I was ever going to go to jail. I never thought, although we used to get up to mischief when I was younger, I was never one of those kids that I thought, "Oh, I'm going to go to the jail." Lots of misdemeanor stuff. I went to court. I wasn't a perfect citizen, but that really, my first experience in prison, and then going through all that trauma there, it was really hard for me to deal with. I got out, I grew my hair really long, I grew a big long beard. I got really skinny, I wasn't eating. I struggled for many years after that to sort of overcome that stuff. And then, when I sort of finally did, I thought, look, I spent a lot of time trying to harm myself or kill myself. When I got out, actually, I'd actually cut my own throat, and then they sort of put me in the hospital there. And I still don't know how I overcome that. I had a really good psychologist that was really supportive of me, Dr. Jeff Nelson, and mate, he did a lot for me. But I don't know how I got out of that headspace, but I did. And when I did, I felt like I had to apply some meaning to stuff. I thought, look, this stuff really upset me. And so I thought, I can let it keep upsetting me, and I can keep getting depressed, and I can keep getting down about it and not move forward. Or I can, use it in a positive way, and, I can help others. And I started writing books.
Yep.
Started helping people, and I've only just started now, really the last couple of months, started sharing my story, because I was so ashamed of it, for a very long time, and just scared. And I thought, look, I was pretending that I'd never gone to prison, for a long time. I thought, look, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want people to know that I've been to prison. I want people to take me seriously and professionally. But there's also something really powerful in sharing your story, because it feels like I've it feels like this heavy weight has been lifted.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And you know what? And the community has been so good. You know, people reach out and they're like, mate, thanks for sharing that. And maybe it helps people, maybe it doesn't. But I tell you what, it's certainly has helped me feel a lot better. Definitely. Yeah, mate.
Yeah. Man, look, on your, on your story, it's hard to talk about things that we think we have shame and guilt about, but it's crazy because we had no power to stop what was happening because we lived in this world where we believed whatever we were taught as doctrines, as children, as parents, as concept of a male, tough motherfucker, Western suburbs, fucking peace out, man. You got the tattoos, I got the jail, I got the girl, I got the car, I'm back in the nick, I'm back out again. And that's what you based your heroes on. You don't talk to the coppers, you don't give any cunt up, you don't do this. Well, I got news for you, mate. It's a fucking lie. And I've been doing it a long time before you were born.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a fucking lie. This whole honor amongst thieves, this crime, this fucking brother fucking got your fucking back, brother. Bullshit. It's all a fucking facade. It's like going and watching fucking the Flintstones. It's a fucking joke, it's a Stone Age joke. And I'm proud of you that you've come to a point where you're telling people your story, because you know what? So many people were abused in the system that the whole system, not just the dirty rotten perpetrators, the fucking system was fully aware of who the perpetrators were, and they put a young kid like you in with a perpetrator. They're responsible. They're fucking responsible. In about 1986, I was a sweeper. You remember, what sweepers are? Sweepers are the guys that work in the unit, right? And I was a bad motherfucker, you know what I mean? So I got away with a lot of stuff. 1986, 5-wing Long Bay jail. Hectic jail. 5 wings where they sent the people across from after they got to reception. They sent them to 5 wing. It was like where you're going to get transferred out to other jails. And I come into my cell and there was someone's clothes in my cell and I'm one out. I'm always one out, because I sort of said to them, you put someone in my cell, I'll kill them.
Yeah.
And I was working as a sweeper, so I had more fringe benefits. I go to the school, I said, mate, fucking what's the shit in my cell? What's someone's bags in there, someone's clothes? He said, Ronnie, please. He said, we've got a young bloke who's been sexually abused over at 2 wing. We've got to put him somewhere while we're waiting to put him into protection to get him out of the jail. We know by putting him in with you, you're not going to touch him. But we also know by putting him with you, no one else is going to fucking touch him.
Yeah.
It's the true story. So we used to get locked up there over lunch. We're locked up. We come out after lunch and there's a couple of the predators hanging out the front we had big steel bars out the front of the yard where they couldn't get in or out. You'd have to gate up boss to get in.
Yeah.
And I know these cocksuckers from over 2 wing. I know they're predators. And I walk out and they're like, hey, mate, how you going, Ronnie? I said, yeah, good, mate. They go, the young bloke in your cell, can you tell us? We want to talk to him. And I said, no. And they go, what? I said, fucking no. I said, well, it's none of your business. I said, mate, you're making it my business. I just told you no, and you're not speaking to the young bloke. And anyway, cut a long story short, that kid stayed with me for 3 days and then he got transferred out of the system.
Yeah.
They knew by putting him in with me that he'd be safe because I wasn't the full quid. I'm not a tough guy, but I'm not very mentally stable. That's how I survived for fucking over 17 years in prisons and in worlds that I lived in. I mean, I was never a tough guy and I never looked for anything, but if you pissed me off, I'd stab you to death in front of the governor. That was my attitude because I had no respect for myself as far as life and death. I mean, I grew up as a career criminal. I shot my first man at 16 years of age. Like,
Yeah.
you know, violence to me was eating breakfast at fucking 3 a.m. in the cold. That was violent. Oh, it's too cold. I can't handle this, you know. Not
Yeah.
stabbing somebody. That was like normal. That's like, yeah, that's what's normal, you know. But yeah, mate, your story needs to be told, and I'm really proud. When I seen that the other day, I was like, yeah, good on you. Because I know how hard that is, you know. Like, I have good friends who are coming out now after 30, 40, 50 years. I got a message today from a guy that because I run a drug rehabilitation program as well.
Yeah.
That's a private thing, and I don't do any podcast. My podcast and my business are two different separate things. But I got a message this morning. It's so beautiful. This is from a 55-year-old school teacher. He's a school teacher at a Catholic school. Hi, Ron. Hope you and your family are well. I'd love to talk to you soon. I'm going really well. I sincerely thank you for all the help last year. You have helped me immensely. Then it's got this guy's name. Case went to committal because when I started dealing with him, I said, you've got to go and report this.
Yeah.
And he was another school teacher and he'd already been arrested, but he hadn't reported his case. The guy was already arrested for other sexual abuse. And went to his committal last week. He was committed on all 15 charges. Justice is being served. You are a great human whom I often talk about to people. I thank you for coming into my life. Have a great weekend. Cheers. Blah, blah. His name. You know, here's a man that held that for 40-something years. And the funny part is he's a Catholic school teacher himself.
Yeah.
And he was abused by a Catholic school teacher.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But he's had to break that cycle, you know, and you know, he's alcoholic, and that's why I've dealt with him, of course. And he's lost his marriages, because of alcohol, and his alcoholism was basically because of what happened to him when he was a 13-year-old sports star.
Yeah.
This guy was the PE teacher who molested him. You know, and you know, we need to get out there and we need to get out and say to people, there's so many kids who are acting out. We have to get out there and say, why are you acting out?
You know what? That's a huge thing because, you know, I'm up in Cairns now and we've got youth crimes everywhere, but it's particularly high here. And, you know, I've been speaking out for the last 2 years. I've been advocating for a 24-hour youth center, and I'm trying to help these kids and do something. And a lot of people that come around after they do something wrong and they want to lock them up or they want punishment, you know, they want this, they want that. No one's asking why they did it.
Yeah.
You know, even when I was a kid, I did a lot of stuff for attention and a lot of bad stuff for attention too. And people, you know, even my mum, you know, would call me an attention seeker.
Yeah.
Like it was a bad thing. And maybe it is, but they wouldn't ask why is he seeking attention? You know, why? Obviously he's lacking something.
It's always got to be why.
Yes.
Yeah. Even with drug rehabilitation, the first thing I ask is why.
Yeah.
Is another quick one I got. I'm going to New Zealand. David Abid does the Felon Show.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I'm going over with David, and we've been invited to the Royal Commission. The Royal Commission Survivor Registration from kids who were abused in state care has played a significant role in the growth of the gangs within New Zealand. So we're going to talk to them as guest speakers about that stuff. And that's what we need. We need to get this everywhere.
Yeah.
We need to start. I believe my company is so successful because I talk about recovery, and I've been in recovery for 42 years, more than what most people have been alive. I've been completely drug-free for 37 years. I went back to prison at 16 years clean and stayed clean.
Yeah,
for 8 years. No, I went back to
not easy to do.
No, and I'm the only person I know, and I know lots of criminals who went back to the system and relapsed. You know, they were in recovery and they went back and they relapsed. I never relapsed. I got out and I just got stronger and stronger and stronger. Because I have this incredible belief is we don't have a drug or a drinking problem. We have a thinking problem. Now, what we think our concept of a male is wrong.
Yes.
So we have to start teaching guys, the guys with tattoos on their faces, their hands, whatever, guys that have been to jail, whatever, guys that have committed crime, whatever, have got a message to carry. Their message is more valid because they've walked the walk and they've not just talked the talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would never have got clean listening to psychiatrists and psychologists.
Yeah.
Psychiatrists and psychologists put me on drugs.
Yeah.
I'm a drug addict. Yeah. That's like a fireman going there throwing fucking petrol on a fire. Let's make it burn out quicker.
Yeah.
You know, there's no common sense to it. So I believe yourself and people that are doing the same thing as what we're doing today, we're starting a movement and it's going to get too big that they're going to have to listen.
Yeah.
You're going to have to listen because there's too many of us getting on this bandwagon and people go, oh, your motivation is this, your motivation is that. You don't know what my motivation is.
You know, I was talking to Russell Manser, who you know,
My mate,
mate, probably 2 weeks ago. And I said, you know, what's really great is now, you know, more than ever, and really for the first time, is this social media stuff and the Instagram and the Facebook and all these places that we can share those stories.
Yep.
We never had that before. We only had, you know, 20 years ago, if there was a story about you, it was a Channel 9 or Channel 7 chop job.
One side.
Yeah, evil this, evil that. That was it. They'd sensationalize it, and that was all you had. And no one was listening to guys, you know, with lived experience. And now we've got a platform where we can and people can listen. And I, you know, even now that I'm just a law student, I make submissions to anything, any inquiry that's got anything to do with correctives, police powers, anything like that, you know, I make a submission. And this last corrective services one, there was 14 submitters in the whole of Queensland.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so many people that actually don't know how to do it. I know there's a lot of guys who've lived experience, you know, in prisons that they can't even read or write, you know, or articulate themselves. And so they're at a disadvantage. They can't speak up.
I was that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't read or write when I went to prison. There's a thing there. Recovery. Yep. It's an inside job. This is when I was in Barellan Correctional Centre. I ran a drug rehab in there. It was because it was a private prison. It was run by Serco, and the GM was a good guy. I'm still in contact with him. His name was Guy Buff, and he believed in rehabilitation. And he couldn't work out how archival the Queensland corrective services were. He said to me, Ron, he said, because I came from another jail to his jail, and he said to me, I hear really good stuff about you everywhere you go. Russell calls me the Pied Piper of recovery. So everywhere you go, they just fucking follow you and everyone gets clean, you know. It's not quite that easy, but a lot of people do get clean. Yeah. And this guy called me and he said, I've got a dream. I want to open a rehab in the system. How can we do it? And I said, you've got to have a wing completely away from everybody else. We can't have visits at the same time. We never associate on the oval. We never have any other prison come to us. If someone uses, they're kicked out. We do a urine every week. Our food's got to be cooked in the unit. We have visits in a different section, so we're getting a route on the visit. We're getting a lot of fringe benefits. Yeah. But what we were doing, we were staying clean.
Yeah.
And he couldn't believe it. Guy was, as I said, we're still in contact with him now, you know, and I'm in contact with, they're doing it in New Zealand now. They talked about they want to stop recidivism. I'll fucking teach them how to stop recidivism. Stop everyone from using.
You know, it's not hard. You know, they talk about it and they say it, but they don't actually do anything. You know, they're not talking to the guys with the lived experience that are there. I think New Zealand's doing some great stuff. Yeah. They seem to be a little bit ahead.
They are ahead. They are. They're humble. And they're not so much about feathering their own nest, where the Australian government's really fucking... we'll see. If you talk to me about period pains or pregnancy, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You know, that's the reality. So when people talk to these guys about crime and self-worth issues and self-doubt and all these issues that we go through, that why we do drink or why we do drug or why we do commit crime, they don't relate to that. So therefore they have no interest, instead of saying, I don't know, how can we get help? They just automatically go, oh, no, that's not what I think. Their opinions coming from a place of ignorance and arrogance.
Yeah.
It's not coming from learned experience, lived experience. It's not coming from an education of trial and error. It's not coming from a place of pain. Pain is the greatest teacher. You know, we've been through so much pain, physical, mental, and spiritual and emotional pain, and we've survived it. And a man who's healed himself is a dangerous man, trust me. Anyone who can live through the stuff we lived through and haven't taken their own life, because we hung a guy we buried a guy last week who hung himself that I know that couldn't get clean. And it happens every day, but we don't hear about that.
Yeah.
That's not important. That's not relevant. But if a drunk driver kills someone driving down the road, it's main news. What about the poor cunt that hung himself that's got a 14-year-old son?
Yeah.
Who was struggling with fucking mental health issues because he couldn't stay clean. He couldn't get off the ice. And he tried 3 times. You know, we need to start doing more.
I became a volunteer at Lifeline late last year, and they invited me to go and speak at their, basically get up on stage. They do a big thing every year, call it Out of the Shadows, and they got me up on stage to share my story. But just before I got on the stage, you know, I spoke to the organizer, and she said, look, you can't mention the word suicide or talk about how you did things or tried things. And it really threw me, because here I was, I had in my own mind, you know, what I was going to say and share my story. And then I got up on the stage and I'm saying, you know, I'm trying to think of, what was I going to say there, where there's that thing I can't say. And I thought that's the whole, I mean, it's wrong there. I mean, they don't want people to, I mean, I guess their fear is that we make suicide sound cool, or maybe if someone's thinking about suicide and we say, look, I tried this one day, that gives them a
trigger,
permission or a trigger, or an idea of, hey, I never thought about doing it that way. But you know what I mean? I've spoken to a lot of people in the space since, and they go, you know what, when I was in that mindset, that's what I wanted to hear. You know, I wanted to hear someone that said, you know what, I went there, I did that, you know, trust me. Not someone that's saying, you know, treating you like, you know, you're, you know, they got the mittens on and, you know, put you in the dress and, you know, treat you like you're delicate. You know, you need someone to sit down and go, look, mate, yeah, fucking things are pretty shit right now, you know, and I've been there, and I've had some shit things happen to me too, but this is how I worked through it, or this is what I'm doing now. And, you know, because then you're giving them that real concrete evidence and permission and proof to say, mate, I've been there too, you can do it, right? You're not just someone that, you know, read something in a textbook. You're someone that's got that lived experience that says, mate, I've been there.
I'm the toughest counsellor in the world, but I get really good results.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I am. I'm straight up and down. I say to people, you want to use? Fuck off. Go and use. I don't give a fuck. So I'm going to sleep tonight. And they go like, what? I say to them, I say, mate, if you're not going to do what I ask you to do, I'll get my wife to work out what's left on the bill. She'll fucking send you the fucking check and you can fuck off. Yeah. They go, oh, what? See, you don't understand. I don't do this for money. I do this to try to save your fucking life.
Yeah. Yeah.
My reward is those texts I get on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
That's my reward.
You know, and that's got to feel good.
Yeah.
You know?
I love what I do. And I love this social media. I was one of the, because I went to jail in 2002. I got out in 2012. The whole world had changed.
Yeah.
The whole world had changed. Social media, this, that, and the other. And because I'm an old jailhead, you know, you never talked about nothing. You didn't tell no one nothing. You fucking, you're staunch and tough and all that shit.
Yeah.
And I found out that I have a gift that I can help people get clean. Then I found out with social media, I can reach more people. That's what motivated me to do the truth about addiction. That's what motivated me to do this podcast, you know. Yeah. And people say to me, because I've been lucky enough, and I make my own luck, you know, I've traveled the world. I lived in America for a while. I can name drop of some fucking people's names that blow people away when I go, oh, yeah, you know, I lived in, when I was in LA, we also, my best mate owned Sunset Strip Tattoo, so we had all the superstars were coming to his tattoo studio to get tattooed.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I wanted to start name dropping and worrying about, you know, what's relevant and what's significant in the world of the bullshit, I can get it. And they say to me, well, why don't you get them on your podcast? And I said, well, I will, but everyone I have on my podcast is a superstar. They miss it. They miss the point.
Yeah.
Everybody I have on my podcast is a superstar. Everybody I have on my podcast is a rock star. My first podcast I started on this, I did with a guy called Rick Grossman. He was the bass guitarist for the Hoodoo Gurus and the Divinals.
Yeah.
He's one of my best mates. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get a guy called Johnny Colt. He's the bass guitarist for the Black Crows and Leonard Skinner. Now, these are guys that I help in recovery.
Yeah.
These are guys that I've sat down and we've talked about recovery, you know. Charlie Sheen, I tried to help Charlie back in the day, you know. Robbie Downey Jr., I met him. You know, like, so if you want to drop names, you can do it. But that's not, the only reason I'm going to put them people on, and that's truth, is because they're in recovery.
Yeah.
And it'll lift my profile so I can reach more people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only reason, you know, like I'm not putting them on because of their name. I'm putting them on because they're recovering or struggling addicts. I don't care if they're in recovery. You can be a struggling addict. You'll still come on my show. I talk to parents of addicts. I talk to children of addicts.
Yeah.
Because I want the truth about addiction. I want everyone to know that everybody's affected by it. Your mum, your grandmother, your grandfather. Yeah. But everyone's also affected by your recovery.
Yes.
As you get clean, everyone around you gets the same ripple effect.
Yeah.
So where you've got this fucking disastrous, horrible shit happening in active addiction, in recovery, we have this wonderful fucking stuff happening too, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a really important thing that we keep this forum open to people where people can say, I'm struggling. I don't know how to live life on life's terms. Some days I don't feel like I fit in. Wow. That's how I felt my whole life. You know? I thought that I was dropped off at the wrong planet. I swear to God. As a kid, I used to lay in bed and think,
made a mistake.
Dropped me off at the wrong planet. Maybe this is not where I'm supposed to be, because I didn't even feel like my family was my family.
Yeah.
You know, I just felt different. I always felt different. And once I took a drug, I felt like I belonged.
Yeah.
I felt like, and I tell everybody, please don't tell me you don't like drugs or alcohol because you did everything for them. You loved them, but you hated the way they made you feel, and you hated the way they stopped working. You hated the things you had to do to maintain that addiction or that obsession or affliction, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
If you want to call it disease, fucking at ease, affliction, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's not relevant. What relevant is how do we not use it today?
Yeah.
How do we get through today by being a good human being and not a human taking?
Yeah.
Because when I'm in active addiction, I'm a human taking. In recovery, I'm a human being. And Russell has a little saying that I live by. I try to give more than I take on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I live by that. I always believe. I also believe in giving we receive. And the greatest gift you can give anybody, which you've given me today, is your time. Because you can't make more time.
That's it.
You know, so I appreciate you giving me your time. I appreciate your honesty. And, you know, I look forward to talking more to you. And when I'm up Cairns next time, I will come and visit you. I'll give you a ring and see where you're at. And if you've got some time, we'll catch up and go and have a cup of tea somewhere, a coffee, and have a laugh. And you know, mate, you're doing good things. Keep it going. You know?
Of course, mate. No, thanks so much for having me on, because I think we're doing powerful stuff.
Yeah, we are.
You know, supporting each other and supporting other people out there too. You know, I always, and Russ says this too a lot, but, you know, I say it now too. I say, you know, if anyone's out there struggling or listening, you know, send me a message.
Yeah, exactly.
Get in touch. I'm pretty approachable. You know, I'm there. And there's a lot of us that are.
Yeah, mate.
We feel so alone and isolated sometimes that we forget that, you know what, we maybe just give it a go. Reach out to someone, you know?
We've started the snowball effect that I'm telling you, and I'm an old past it, but I've seen this before. I've seen this snowball effect happen before in recovery. Because when I first got clean, there was very few people getting clean from drugs. And I started doing a 12-step program. There was very few of them. Now there's thousands of them all over the place.
Yeah.
I believe in 12-step programs, but I don't believe that's the only answer. I believe there's lots of ways of getting clean, lots of ways of staying clean. People talk about total abstinence. Well, that's okay for them. I'm total abstinent, but not everybody has to be total abstinent. Harm minimization is good enough for me. I have mates who still drink and are good. They're okay. I don't associate people who are sticking shit up their veins and that, because, you know, I know about that shit. That's going nowhere in a fucking jet airliner.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, but mate, look, yeah, I really appreciate your time, and we will continue with this. We'll talk again, and no, Star, thank you very much for coming onto the Truth About Addiction, mate. Thank you for sharing your story. It was very courageous.
Thank you, Ron.
I solemnly swear that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.